Right. 7:02, 3 more minutes, and we are starting.
And then, Jamie, just so we're clear, the chat can't be open, right? I think it's just amongst panelists because it's a webinar, correct?
So I can set it where it's up to you, actually. They can
Yeah,
either.
if you can open up the chat, please.
Yeah, we want to open the chat, but it was our understanding that there were some restrictions at the beginning because we want people to be able to comment
Want
accordingly.
to
And then
comment.
if you have question and answers, you could just still use the Q&A portion, and our staff is on there now responding to individuals. But if you just want to share comments about what's being shared, by all means, please use the chat. We want people to be able to talk.
Right. We do not want anybody to feel that they can't express themselves, but we did do it webinar style, as you all can understand. The reason why is because of the interest in this issue. Because of the interest in this issue, we could not do the regular meeting style on Zoom, which doesn't have a limit of 300. So because of that, we had to do it webinar style, and webinar style did mean that we would have to do the webinar style, which is different from the regular Zoom. Okay, all right. I was I'm freaking out a little bit because everybody was asking what's going on, but we are all in here. So I'm getting ready to go ahead and start the meeting. And if you all have any questions, you can join the chat. But this is Happy New Year to everyone. We are in a new year, but we need to move forward with Westphalia. And we do know that we've had 2 meetings, one in 2023 and one in 2024. And we have some outstanding issues that need to be addressed. And we would like to move forward. So there are a couple things I wanted to give you all the updates on. And then there is pending litigation that has been brought up. And we were going to discuss that. And actually, I would just be open with everyone. We actually had this meeting already scheduled. We were already going to do it. We were looking at doing it in either late December or January. And frankly, then there were some other issues that came up. So then that means that we have a jam-packed agenda. So let me just start with this. I do share the frustration of most of you on the call wanting there to move forward with retail in Westphalia. I do want to give some background on how we got where we are. And because of some of the things that's happened in the past, it has led to some delays. Now, I want everyone to know how Westphalia started, just to do a quick overview. You all know it was farming area. And at the time, Councilman Sam Dean wanted to create a downtown center in the middle of the Westphalia community. That meant that a lot of this was in the early 2000s, I would say early 2003, 2004. That led to a sector plan. A sector plan, and just so people know that that is the one way that you can change or determine zoning. That sector plan was put together and with input from the developers, Smith Home Farms, Westphalia Town Center, others that bought the property there. And because of that, that led to the Westphalia 2007 sector plan. And later on here, I know we have park and planning. We do have a link to that. I believe there's a link to that, but James, if we could send out that link, we want people to see that. That sector plan set the zoning for this area and the plan for this area, the park, all of the things that you all see there that was set. Under the Westphalia sector plan, we were supposed to have about 35,000 homes and a retail center in the middle. 60%, everyone bought different parts of this. 60% of that of this development was bought by Walton Westphalia Town Center, and that was around, I believe, 2007. And now we're at the point now that there was and let me just go back. In 2010, during the recession time, they had this plan. The plan was put in together. People around the area gave their input. It was approved by the county council, and boom, the recession happened. So because of the recession, there were some TIFs done, and there was an actual plan put together that each developer, when permits were pulled, were required to contribute into a fund that built the park. And there was also just a whole approval of plans that linked all of the developers all together. The reason why I'm just mentioning that, it sounds very complicated, and it is, but what it did was that one developer can only move forward if another developer moves forward with their project. So this explains why you have a whole section where people have bought houses that have not been built. They have not been built because one developer has to finish the road, then the other developer start. This is unlike any development in the county. Usually the county, one developer controls the whole thing, but in Westphalia, you have different developers controlling different parts of the project. So one developer depends on the other, and that is what makes Westphalia unique. And I do want to tell you that that is part of the reason why that Westphalia is moving slower than others. Now, it's my understanding, when I did ask those in the past, this was the result of some financial issues during the recession. And during the recession, this was at that time seen a way to save a project from failing. Now that we're moving forward, the reality is that as I told you, it was supposed to be 35,000 homes. We only have around 10,000. So we really need the other groups to move forward. And the bigger part of that is the retail part is about 60% of the sector plan, and the ownership of Westphalia alone. So we do need the Walton group to move forward and develop, because by them developing will encourage and incentivize other developers that are kind of waiting on streets, waiting on the retail. So right now we're at a little bit of a standstill, but we're not at a standstill that we cannot move forward. The bigger issue that we need to do is we need Walton to move forward with the retail. And I've met with them many times. When I met with them in 2023, I asked them to move forward with the retail. Now, understand Westphalia Town Center is part of the Walton development. They move forward with that. In fact, the first developer that moved forward was Parkside. Parkside was under Smith Home Farms. They moved forward and started building, and they built before anyone. But then they paused, and Westphalia Town Center did do some development, but they have a lot more to do. So we have met with them and asked them to move forward. At the beginning, they said that they wanted to relook at some of the road infrastructure. Now, understand, for me, that has to be something that has to be a very thoughtful discussion. And let me just explain why. One of the hardest things that we have in Westphalia is road infrastructure. It is not developed. It does not fit with the movement. We need the actual road infrastructure pulled in place. So to pull that back could be a problem for everyone. So because of that, we actually said that we have to sit down and meet with Park and Planning and go over whatever plan that we could put together that does not completely remove Walton's requirement of road infrastructure. And so that was what we were working on, to ensure that Walton would move forward with the retail. And then they came to us and brought Northpoint, which is a litigation that that was about a small piece of land that was sold to a group called Northpoint. And they said that if that litigation went away, then they could move forward with the retail. Well, here's the thing. We like to work with all developers, because at the end of the day, we need the developer to move forward so we can get a proper development. However, we need everybody to move forward in good faith. And I just want to make sure that's clear, in good faith. So if you haven't moved forward with the retail since 2007, we are now asking them, it was the infrastructure in 2023, now it's Northpoint in 2024. So one thing we just want to make sure is clear. One thing has nothing to do with the other. Walton has the ability right now to put forth a plan for retail. They can do that today. Now they're saying it's because of money. Northpoint, they need the money. Northpoint is a very small small slither of the entire Walton development. So Walton does not need Northpoint to move forward with retail. That's the excuse that they've told us. That's not something, and I will be honest, I have your interest. I would not play around with you all. I have no financial interest in this. This is just to make a better community for Prince George's County and for our district. So we would not, you know, we know right now, I can tell you there is no link between Northpoint and the retail center. So what we've asked Walton to do is to move forward with the retail. Now, in the midst of planning this, we did not know that Walton was going to put out this information to the community, and they've used those in the community to put information out there to kind of, you know, impact those that are in the community. Let me just be clear. Northpoint has nothing to do with the retail. It's two different things. However, there are some things that you need to understand about the retail, about the Westphalia Town Center. During 2007, when they were putting together the actual plan for Westphalia, let me just be clear, they created a zone, and it is called Town Activity Center. Town Activity Center, before there was called something called MXT, which is our mixed use. And if people understand what mixed use, and I will say that there probably be questions in the chat, and we're going to answer all of them. MXT was the mixed use that's where you can do a shopping center and you can do apartments and townhomes all in one. So when they created the Town Activity Center zone, that's a new zone. With that new zone, they actually created an area in the actual area that you have your retail center. It added a section that allows you to have light industrial. Let me just repeat that again. With the zoning in the retail area of Westphalia, there is an actual zone called Town Activity Center. This was adopted in 2021 by the old county council. The old county council approved the new zoning ordinance. And under the new zoning ordinance, this is that allows for the area that you have your retail, they can allow light industrial, commercial, and residential. So because of that, that is what prompted the Northpoint project, because Northpoint is, according to the approved plans, could be a warehouse. So the question is, this warehouse project is right near Parkside, so that people understand what the issue is. And some in the community are concerned about the proximity of a warehouse zone near Parkside. So there is concerns there. Now that's only a small slither. So again, I just want to make sure people understand. And I noticed Devin is pinned on mine. Is Devin pinned on everybody else's? Just want to make sure, because that's the way mine looks. Okay. Okay, so let me go there and make sure people understand. Northpoint is a section of the Westphalia Town Center retail area. It is not the entire thing. It is a section. What Walton has done is that they sold off pieces of their retail section, or pieces of their entire retail section. They're selling it off to different people. And Northpoint was one of the people who bought a section of their entire retail. However, that does not change the point that if tomorrow Walton can and should put in a plan to develop a retail center. So with this Northpoint becoming a big issue, and it was put in different chats online, I understand that it was put in Westphalia Town Center group and online on Facebook. I saw it on Facebook. I just want people to understand what Northpoint is, because I know before, this was 3 years ago in 2021, there was a fight about placing a warehouse, the Amazon warehouse in the retail area. And that became a big issue. And I know many of you all here were involved with that. Well, the question is there another warehouse coming to the retail area, to the area of Westphalia Town Center? And the answer is yes. And that will be Northpoint. And Northpoint does have, it is light industrial is permitted, by the zoning that was approved in 2021 by the old county council. So because of that, that is where we are now. Now, there is litigation. This case is pending before the Maryland Supreme Court now. It was appealed, and it was a technical issue that really doesn't have any direct, it does not directly deal with the actual, you know, some of the issues that you're going to hear, which is the quality of life, about sound, about hours of operation, about truck movement. But what we've decided to do on this call is to actually have a discussion of what Northpoint is. Now, I did see a comment about nobody wants an industrial area in their community. That is part of the concerns that has been brought by the people that live there. So I do want to make sure that you all understand it is permitted by the zoning that was approved by the council member that was before me. So this was something, when I came in, the town activity zone had already been approved in Westphalia, and that is the zone in there. So that does mean that there could be another warehouse that could come there. I'm not sure. It depends on what plans are submitted by a developer. Let me just explain the process so people understand. The developer has the zones that they can do. They are permitted by then to actually put forth whatever they want to do, as long as it fits the zoning that is outlined in our zoning ordinance. So for this area, if it's commercial, industrial, residential, they need, as long as it fits under the zoning, they are permitted to put a plan that's submitted to park and planning outlining what they're going to do with the property. Now, what we have met with Walton. I did meet with the even CEO 2 weeks ago. We are talking to them. We have pushed that they need to move forward with the retail. I would say this, while I'm going to turn it over to Park and Planning, because I want Park and Planning to go over the Northpoint development so people can actually understand what it is. Now, somebody said, can the industrial zone be redone? That would be very difficult, because that will require an entire rezoning, which is a very difficult process. But I will allow James to actually go over what that entails. But when we met with Walton, they did say that they do intend on bringing retail to the rest of the area that is intended for retail. So that we really do not want a big industrial zone in that area. And it can be only light industrial. And I will ask James to explain what light industrial is. So it cannot be a heavy industrial zone. Whatever they put there, that even in the Northpoint area, has to be light industrial. Now, I do want to everybody will know that the Waltons, somebody asked, I see some of the questions coming up. The Walton that owns the Westphalia Town Center is not the same Walton family that owns Walmart. I did have that question too. But that is not the same question. And we cannot control what the developer owns the development. We as a county do not own it. So we have to depend on them to put the proposal forward. It has to be them, not us. So I will now turn it over to James, because I would like James to actually go over the actual proposals. And let me just actually go there. I'm actually looking at some of the questions. Ayana, is there anything that jumps out that we need to address?
We have a few in the question and answer section. Someone asked, 2007, did they plan for schools? I'm not sure
Yeah,
which part of.
So let me just answer that. So James will go into that. Yes, that is something that's supposed to be, when they do the plans, they are supposed to determine, whether this impacts schools. That's part of the whole, when they do the plan, the the Westphalia plan that was put forth. However, the school system does not usually build a school until they see the families or the numbers of people there. We are looking at trying to get a new school, but we can't do it now with only, it's low compared. Like I said, we need about 20,000 more people there. So we are looking at that, but it's hard to do that now. What I will say is that they're supposed to pay, when you get an approved plan, you have to pay. Part of it is paying into a fund, and that includes paying for infrastructure for schools. And James will talk about that. That is something that is supposed to come with the approved plans from a developer so that people understand that process. Now, the bigger issue is not necessarily schools, it's actually roads. We have new roads that must be built by the developer. And they have not been built yet. So that is causing a bigger issue. When people in Parkside are saying that they're having traffic coming through their community, this is coming because the actual roads that were supposed to be built out have not been built yet. When they build out, that would actually ease some of the traffic that people are experiencing now. But we need them to build these roads. And part of this, those roads come with the actual plan of the retail, which is a big section. There are some other, I would say it's not only Walton, there is another developer that has not built out some of the roads that they were promised to build out. And we are working now. I am meeting with the county executive folks to try to see if we can intervene and put together a process of trying to build out a road so that developers that are ready to build can start to build now. So, because understand, the park that you all have, that is a park fund that is paid for by the developers when the developers pull permits. But nobody can pull permits until they have an approved plan. The plan has to be approved. And then once they start building, then they pull permits. Then that is how we get the money to pay for some of the things like the road and like the park. So we do need to we really are trying to work with the developers to see what we can do to get this moving forward. But to try to use this dangle of litigation to try to get out of that, I don't think that's fair to residents, because it really is no connection. So let me have James, can you come up? Let's pull James up, and James is going to give a presentation on Northpoint so people can understand a little more about Northpoint. And while he's doing that, I'm going to go into the chat because I see some of more questions, and I will some of the things that we see here, we'll try to get, we will try to actually respond to some of those questions. So James, can you go over the Northpoint development so that people can get more information on Northpoint?
Councilwoman, if I can just add, just for neighbors on the call, please add your Q&A to the Q&A section, your questions. That way we can have record of us responding to them and make sure we get you answers you need. If you just want to vocalize how you feel, then you use the chat for that. That way we can respond to you in the Q&A. You got a response directly from us.
Sure, and thank you, Council Member Blegay, for allowing me to join in with you all tonight. And good evening, everyone. I hope you all are having a happy new year. So I will need someone to allow me to share my screen so I can go through the quick presentation here.
Ms. Jamie, can you assist them with that, please?
Right. All right. Can you all see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So good evening again, everyone. My name is James Hunt. I am the Acting Deputy Director here with the Prince George's County Planning Department. And I wanted to take a quick opportunity to go through the actual Northpoint detailed site plan proposal and where we are within the process, and also try to answer as many questions as I can with this whole project itself. Tonight, I wanted to be able to kind of go through and give you a brief history of the project and a quick synopsis here, as well as the status of the detailed site plan and what that means. Also talk about the various areas of concern that have been raised previously related to the sound barriers, the truck and traffic movements, buffers, noise analysis, and other impacts as well. So, and then we'll do a quick wrap up towards the end. To give you all a brief start of this whole process. So whenever an applicant comes to us, there are multiple different stages of the development process that they have to go through. So it's not something where it's like you come in and get an approval and then that's it. There are multiple different stages. You have to, first of all, just like the council member said a few moments ago, you have to have the zoning in place for the proposal, what you're wanting to do. I'm going to go through the site information in just a moment, but just to kind of give you a small bit of background here. And whenever we do our analysis at any point in time, our analysis is truly based upon what the zoning ordinance states, what the master plan or sector plan states, as well as what the overall general plan for Prince George's County states, which is what we call Plan 2035. You all may be aware of it. In addition to that, we also have the subdivision regulations and the landscape manual. So all these different factors come into play whenever we're doing our analysis as it relates to a staff report that comes out from our team. Sorry about that, real quick.
James, do you mind telling people who you are? People are saying that they would like to know who you are, which makes sense.
Oh,
think that
sorry,
was-
I thought,
Thank you.
sorry, I apologize in the beginning. I'm James Hunt. I'm the acting deputy director with the Prince George's County Planning Department. I'm right up under the director within the department. I've been working on development here within Prince George's County for the past 6 years. I've been in planning for over 20 years as well, coming from North Carolina originally, and then went to Virginia, worked in the city of Alexandria, and then now I'm here with Prince George's and loving every second of it. But just want to give you a little background there of myself. I originally, when I first started with the commission, I was the division chief over development review over all the development here in Prince George's County. Now I'm in an acting role for the deputy director here within the county as well. For this particular site, to kind of give a little background here, this site, someone asked the location of it. As you can see here, the location is outlined in red. It's actually off of Machinist Way and Presidential Parkway, so not too far from the intersection of Dower House Road. So you'll see that highlighted there in red. The property, just like the council member mentioned just a few moments ago, the properties that are in question here are zoned what we call TAC Edge, or Town Activity Center Edge Zone. What that means is, and under the prior ordinance, it was the mixed use transportation zone. Under the new ordinance, it does permit for a town center type activity or some commercial uses to take place, in addition to some residential also. So in this particular situation, the applicant has submitted a request and received planning board approval at this point in time, and then also further was denied, and I can go into that a few moments ago later regarding the uses that were actually requested were the commercial uses as well as warehouse uses. Okay, so those were only two. It's not specifically stating exactly what they're planning to do. However, you have a broad range of different things that could happen as it relates to the different uses they could select to use as a part of their detailed site plan in going into this development. So they have not come out and said, hey, we're going to have a warehouse or exactly what we're going to do, but we're looking at these two commercial uses as well as warehouse uses. Don't know exactly which one, but we're going to develop our detailed site plan based upon these two different types of uses, okay? And so in addition, on here, as you can see on the screen, that also says MIO. MIO is the Military Installation Overlay Zone. Each one of you living in this community already are aware that that the Andrews Air Force Base is just right across the street, right across Pennsylvania Avenue from you. Because of that, there are noise impacts and height impacts as well. So this military installation overlay zone actually states what can and can't happen relative to those potential uses, like the heights, the zoning, what uses can go in, what can't. So they dictate a little bit as well. However, in this particular situation, the applicant has basically addressed those issues. So let's see, moving forward here. So a little bit of the project history on this particular site. This site did receive what we call a conceptual site plan approval. So it was like a bubble plan. They came to staff, they came to the planning board, they came to the county council at that point in time, back in 2014, and said, hey, here's what our plans are for this particular project, of this location. They received at that point in time conceptual site plan approval. A little bit not too long after that, they have received, I apologize, a preliminary plan of subdivision approval for the site as well. So that preliminary plan of subdivision is whenever we're looking at adequacy. So the council member mentioned a few moments ago, at the time of adequacy, what typically happens. So adequacy is when we're determining if the transportation improvements or what transportation improvements are going to be necessary for that site. In addition to, we're looking at potential impacts to schools. We're looking at impacts to police and fire response times. We're looking at parks and recreational impacts and what needs to take place there, and some environmental impacts too. So at this time, we actually reviewed for the traffic study and all these different things, noise, all these other things took place at the time of the preliminary plan of subdivision. Later on, in about 2023, the planning board heard the detailed site plan, which is the next phase of that whole development process. This detailed site plan is whenever we're looking at the actual site and what they're planning to place there, what's coming up out of the ground. So this is the architecture, the landscaping, anything relevant to the heights of the buildings, all these different things, stormwater management, all these are actually taking place and reviewed and analyzed at this detailed site plan phase. Staff reviewed that from our planning department, and then we provided a staff report that went before the planning board. The planning board reviewed the staff report, they reviewed the analysis that took place, they reviewed all the detailed information and recommended approval of that potential development that took place. After that, that did go before the district council for their review, in which at that point in time, the district council did disapprove that back in May of 2023. And since then, the status of it is now, I think the council member just told you that, I think it's on appeal at this point in time. So here's the actual detailed site plan overall, what it looks like. And I'm going to go through, this is just the site from an overview of what came to us and what we have. So as you can see up here at the top of the screen, this is the part, I believe the Parkside development that was there. That's adjacent to the Northpoint building, the north building there, proposed building. We can go into this a little bit later, but I'm going to talk about the buffers, the noise wall, and all these other components that are going to be a part of this development. So here's the relationship to where this building is located. So as you can see and I'll show this, matter of fact, let me go there now. Let me go, before I go there, I wanted to go into the traffic and the circulation here. My apologies. So the traffic and circulation, just to kind of clarify here, the traffic and circulation, what's been proposed is to come in from Presidential Parkway and Machinist Way. That's what it's looking like at this point, what the applicants proposed. However, just to kind of clarify here, there can be conditions. If the council does so choose to, they can place conditions on, let's say, a detailed site plan requiring the applicant to do certain things. So from our standpoint, from what we've reviewed, we'll review that for the technical analysis from what the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations, as well as the landscape manual actually say. The district council does have the authority to place additional conditions onto an application as they deem necessary in accordance with their council and however they choose. So just a little bit further here. So from the building, typically whenever we're seeing a lot of developments, it would be anticipated that, the building would front along Presidential Parkway. That's what you would typically see and you would kind of expect. However, this particular situation, the building has the frontage where the actual parking lot for the vehicles, for the cars, are actually going to be on the side of the residential side, so the back side of the building. In addition to that, and I'll go back into this in a moment. So this right here, what you see on your screen is actually what would be seen from the residents of the Parkside development, if they, in addition to the fact they've got the noise wall and everything going up. But this is going to be the facade for that side of the building, just to clarify here. It's not typically, you would kind of expect to see more so the loading docks, things like that to take place or to be located on the rear side of the building. However, in this situation, that's not the case. They have actually placed those loading docks on the other side of the building. And so I'll go into that in just a moment. In addition to that, there is also what we call a 14-foot high noise wall that's gone up. That's in compliance with 27-6810 of the noise ordinance, the zoning ordinance. That 14-foot wall is supposed to help mitigate that noise that comes from this development. It's not saying for sure that's what's going to happen or that particular Let's say if it's a warehouse use going in, it's not saying that that warehouse use will go in. It could be something else at the same time. It could be any other commercial development. However, regardless, that 14-foot high noise wall is required to go in as a part of the approval of the detailed site plan if we're to move forward. In addition to that, there also are parking lot requirements, screening requirements, in addition to the buffering related to the zoning ordinance, the landscape manual, I should say. The landscape manual requires what we call buffering between incompatible uses. So when you have a commercial use or a warehouse use, let's say, that's adjacent to residential, then at that point in time, there you have the landscape manual requires a specific buffer to go in. And in this situation, the applicant has complied with those buffer requirements by having additional vegetation in there. Again, you have the noise wall in there to buffer that as well. So all these different factors and the setbacks are all being considered as a part of the analysis that took place with this application. So to kind of go into this as well, at this point in time where we are, just to give you a little background again as well, the Prince George's County Planning Board, their role and responsibility in this is to review and to make decisions based upon the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations, as well as the landscape manual and any other applicable laws that are out there as well. The planning department, we ensure the project is going to comply with those requirements. And then on the enforcement side, when these conditions are placed in on these applications, then that's handled by the Department of Permitting, Inspections, and Enforcement there. So that's their role in this. Also want to give you a little answer a few questions also too regarding the definitions, what we're looking for when it comes to that warehouse type use. The warehouse use we were looking at and when we're discussing kind of, it's almost like a light industrial. It's not an I-1 because the property is zoned TAC edge. However, it does allow for a warehouse type use to go in, and there are definitions within the zoning ordinance that kind of discuss that as well. In this particular situation, the actual site plan is in compliance with all the different landscaping and zoning ordinance requirements relevant to that going in at this point in time. That's what the planning board found. And then further now it is on appeal, just to kind of clarify and state again. In addition to that, the schools, there was a question regarding impacts to schools. As I was talking about earlier, when it comes to schools, that discussion and analysis is taking place at the time of preliminary plan of subdivision. So just like the council member said a few moments ago, the developer actually pays, however, pays into whenever they get the permit, they have to pay into the schools fund per dwelling unit that's actually permitted. So every dwelling unit has so many thousands of dollars that goes into this fund that goes for schools. When it comes to the Westphalia sector plan, when that took place or was approved, I think it was back in 2007, there was a site location for a school to go in. And just like the council member stated a few moments ago very eloquently, that the schools have to take ownership of that for their portion of it. Where it is right now is that money goes into what we call a pot, and then the county council and as well as the school board will pursue that moving forward when it gets to that point, that stage. But that is all kind of laid out within that sector plan, the sector plan requirements. I've placed a link to the sector plan into the chat, so everyone should have a copy of or a link to it. Please take a look at it. One of the things that was discussed as a part back in 2007, you can see how kind of outdated it was at that point in time, is that and the council member is very much aware of this as well. They were looking at putting a metro station in Westphalia. So that was a part of this whole thought process as well. So there's a lot of I should say, of conceptual planning going on for those for this particular development. And a lot of it has moved forward. However, a lot more is slated when I say slated as a part of the plan itself to move forward, just like the council member said, a lot more homes and a lot more dwellings to be built in this particular area. So that said, I hope I have answered as many questions as possible. I am here to answer any additional that you all may have.
So let me just ask there's some things, so people, let me just highlight some things that I want you all to hear. So with the school, he said it, the school issue, there was land donated for community, so we could use it as a school. They designated the school. The issue is that building a school, the cheapest thing is to get the land. Putting the building up is another cost. We had the same thing happen in Fairwood. Fairwood 20 years ago was promised a school. The school land was promised. The school system had no money for it. And they had to basically find the money to build the school, which there was some money put aside, but diverted. But understand, to build a school, you're talking about between $50 million to $100 million. And that is to actually put the building on the actual property. So this isn't including other things. So when people want to build a school, that is money we have to find. And remember, we built now it would have been 12 schools. And the next, we did 6 schools for phase 1, 8 schools for phase 2. And that is costing us, we will have to pay from our funds 36 million for years. So we're talking about 36 million for like 30 years. And that doesn't even include what the state and some others are doing. And that's what we're doing to take care of some of the payments for it to build the school. So and we don't have the money right now for a school. So no matter what land they've given, the school will not be built until we can find money for it. And we don't have the money right now. There are some other things that that he mentioned. So James, can you give an overview of the sector plan? What is the number? Do we have the numbers of what the number of homes that were supposed to be with the sector plan that was approved in 2007?
I can't recall right offhand, but I think it was way up there, like 40,000. If I
Right,
remember
40,
right.
it's supposed to be 40,000. And I would say, and I just wanted to understand, that is what is really, between 40 and 50,000. And I know we have some developers that are in this call, but that is where you can really push for the Trader Joe's and some of those high-end folks, high-end companies. You really need that type of density in one area. And that's something that we really need. We need to do. Now, the good thing about the sector plan is that the plan is outlined for us. So it's not like they have to find the place. We just need them to pull the permits. And another thing I wanted him to highlight, he highlighted for the school part and for all of the infrastructure payment, we get that when they pull the permit. So an approved plan, when you get a DSP, a detailed site plan that's approved, that's just a plan that's approved. And James, can you explain that because some people do know this, but some people don't. If they have an approved plan, how long does it take before it expires, before they have to go back again? Because I've seen that happen where people have to come back with an approved plan from, I think we just did one in the Upper Marlboro-Largo area that had been approved. They had the DSP from the 90s and they came back for approval. So can you give us the timeline of approval and how long it lasts?
So typically, depending on which type of plan you have, preliminary plan versus a detailed site plan, you have one up to 3 years, some are 18 months. So the thing is that the applicant has to show that they have actually been what we call vested, that application has been vested. So they have done their due diligence, they have gone and received the permits, and they have started some work to get everything done. So if they have not started or done any significant work, by the time that what we call a validity period, or that expiration date comes, then that approval is expired. So, and what that means is that applicant, if they want to continue that development, they've got to go back through that process all over again to get an approval. So typically you do find a lot of developers that will do all they can to make sure they get their permits and start getting the work so they can get vested and complete that work in order to prevent them from having to go back through that development process. So it's an extensive period. And then also there were situations in the past, this is definitely well before Councilmember Blegay, but where applicants were requesting extensions, or there were extension requests that were kind of blanketed for certain approvals that were done by prior councils. And so that was another option at that point in time under the old zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations that did take place. So those validity periods kept getting extended. So that's also what's taken place as well.
So usually about 3 years, right? So that people
Yes,
understand.
ma'am.
Okay, so
Yes,
people
ma'am.
understand, once you get an approved plan, you have 3 years to pull permits and everything, or else it expires, right?
Correct.
And then
Correct.
once it expires, then you have to go back and do the process all over again, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so people will understand that process. So we do have, and I would say that we are seeing some notices here. We do have some developers that have approved plans because it takes money to put a detailed site plan together. You need an architect, all this stuff. So usually we expect them to start building right after, but oftentimes they might not build and then it expires and then they have to go back through the process again. I've seen some that's come that, the original detailed site plan that they will include in their plans to say what was previously approved will be from another time period. The difference with the retail center, they have not put a detailed site plan for full development. They just did an infrastructure one. Can you explain what an infrastructure plan is when a developer submits that? What is that?
So an infrastructure detailed site plan, it kind of breaks up. If you think of it, it just breaks up the entire detailed site plan process. So on the detailed site plan, you're looking at means of egress into and out of a site, different things along that nature. You're looking at the building, like I said earlier, the landscaping. What it does with an infrastructure only, it makes sure that it shows the roads, it shows the utilities going in, all these different factors that are infrastructure related, not those factors relevant to the actual architecture or the design of the architecture there. So it breaks everything up. So it gets them started to work on the infrastructure at first, and then they'll come in later for an architecture only at that point. So it kind of breaks it up, but it keeps things kind of moving for the applicant.
All right, and let me just say this, let me just put this there. This is what Walton has done with the retail. So with the retail, now the Northpoint did their detailed site plan. So they have that approved, which was the proposal that you saw him discuss. The other part, that's the retail part, they submitted an infrastructure plan. But it doesn't, the detailed site plan that we're looking for will tell us what square footage is going to be the grocery store, how many pads are they going to have for each of the retail spaces, what is all going to look like, what is parking going to look like, all of that. We want them to submit that. So we are pushing for them to submit it. Now with the, I just want to emphasize a couple things because this came up. Light industrial, James, can you just go one more view over it? Because people are concerned about that. Under the town activity center where Northpoint is. Now, as you all can see, can you go back to the outline so people can see what the building is going to look like? Can you go back to that part? Okay, so this is what the facade facing the residential, this is what the building will look like. And what is the limits, James, for the light industrial that's in this area? What are the limits?
So there, as far as it relates to the setbacks from the building, we're talking about earlier, the 40 feet. Is that what you're talking about, the buffer area?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let me kind of go back here to kind of give you a little bit of show here on the screen. So here on this screen, I don't know if you can see it, but on this area right here, that's of course the area that's going to be facing the residential, right?
Okay.
And so this is where you're going to see where a lot of the typical cars, like what you and I typically drive on a daily basis, our Hondas, our Toyotas, our Lexus, whatever you may have. So that's what you're going to see over here. However, over here on this side of the building, this is where the trucks, those larger trucks, will have their parking located. However, in addition to that, the loading bays are going to be on this side.
And that is the Presidential Parkway side, right?
Correct, the Presidential Parkway side.
So what people would probably want to know is that if they live on a residential side, how would these trucks be impeding on their daily living? Because people are concerned about that.
Great question. So what we're going to anticipate, and this kind of goes back, let me go back to the other slide here, if I can find it. So here, this is the actual traffic and circulation, which you're going to actually see here. So the way things are at this stage, it's not the saying that that's the way it's going to be or whatnot, but this is where they are right now. So the trucks this is Pennsylvania Avenue coming from right through here. Mm-hmm. This is the intersection with Machinist Way. So the trucks are looking to come in right here on Machinist Way. And then on Presidential Parkway, you'll see here at this point. Now, the council does have the ability and the authority to put additional conditions on, let's say, an application. They have every ability to do so. So those conditions could be, you know, trucks going to enter through this site to this location. The hours of operation for, you know, deliveries or whatnot has to be between, I don't know, 11 p.m. I'm sorry, let's say 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., whatever it comes out from the council, what they determine. That's those hours of operation are well within the council's authority to do. So they can look at that and show those. But as it stands right now, the trucks will be coming in from this side, and they'll be coming in from here to go into the site for this building to the south. And then for the building that's located adjacent to the Parkside development, they could come in from Machinist Way to Presidential Parkway, come in here. In addition to that, there's a possibility they can come in here as well from Woodyard Road. That is an option there as well. I do realize that some people may not want that. So that's another, like I said, that's another condition that could be placed on this application to require the applicant to only have trucks come in from a certain location. So that's out there. However, that's kind of what it's been approved at this point in time. So they're able to come in here. So that they come in here from this side as well as from this entrance here. In addition to that, when we're talking about, I know one of the concerns was, like I said, was noise. So what came out of that as well was the noise wall to go up there in addition to that. So the noise wall will be coming up. That is, like I said, a 14-foot high noise wall that's going to encompass a good part of the parking area. So that's going to go up in addition to that buffer area that's in there, that's been added in there too.
Can you explain to people what a noise wall will be? Because that's a big concern. What type of noise, like what is a noise wall so people can understand what is being usual? What have you seen from those who what is approved?
So typically in this particular application, I went back through the file and seen some proposed noise walls that we'd actually use. So going with a specific company. Typically with a noise wall, and you all know how noise actually works. So you have the wall itself. And so let's say on this side of the wall, you're having the residential uses, right? And then on this side, you've got, let's say, a warehouse use, for example, or the commercial use. Mm-hmm. So any noise emanating from this commercial side the intent is to hit this noise wall, right? Mm-hmm. And it blocks the noise from hitting the homes that are right here. So what would typically happen is it would hit the noise wall, it can come up and it has to keep going up, and which will, in essence, miss the homes that are in Parkside right there. So that's the intent of that noise wall. So if you think about it, it'll hit the noise wall and the intent is to go up and go over.
I see. So that they won't hear it in Parkside that are behind.
Correct.
Okay. And correct. Then also, just to be clear, explain the light industrial. People really want to know, what does that mean? And I just, think that everybody should hear it so that you guys know what it is.
Yeah, these light industrial uses are not ones that are a lot of pollutants taken out of it. It's not a heavy industrial type location. You may see more so like it can be an office use in there as well. That's an option as well. So it can be that's related to the commercial side of it. But when it comes to the warehouse, you may see a small, let's say a small warehouse use. I'm going to throw out, for example, if someone wanted to do a window fitting facility, let's say Window Nation or something like that, you may see something like that. That would be more so considered almost like a light warehouse type use. That would be the intent here, not to have something that we're going to have a heavy industrial use going in and out of this site itself. So we're not looking at uses that are going to emit a huge amount of, let's say, smoke or things coming out of this building or whatnot. As you can see on this building, this is the detailed site. This is the actual renderings for the plan or the architectural design itself. And let me clarify here. If the applicant, for some reason, let's say this gets approved and they move forward, if the applicant decides to go with a different type of site plan, okay? If they go with a different type of site plan, that means they have to come back for another approval because this site plan has been approved. And if they go above and beyond what's been approved with this, then they have to come back and get another approval. Now, if they go to something, if they go less than that, that's a different story. They can go less than that before, and there's another amendment process that relates to that. But one of the questions that I've been made aware of is that if it's an amendment that takes place, or can they have an amendment to take place? And that answer is yes. And that potential amendment could go back before the county council for their approval, as well as the planning board. So that is an option, but these uses are they're, like I said, very light in nature. They're not intended to have heavy industrial going on there.
Okay, all right. So that just so people can actually understand that. Can you just give it, and I know I'm just trying to make sure everybody understand before we're gonna bring one of the people that were very concerned about this, and I know some people are surprised by this. Look, this was approved by the last council with the new zoning ordinance. And can you explain the new zoning ordinance and how this came about? Well, you were around during the new zoning ordinance time, right?
Yes.
This
Yes,
was
ma'am.
already approved. This was approved. The council approved the new zoning ordinance in 2021. I came on the council in 2023. So this zoning had already been approved in 2021. And can you just go over that process so people can understand? Because some folks are very surprised by this.
Yes. So when it comes to the back prior to 2021, we were reviewing and analyzing development applications under the prior zoning ordinance. That zoning ordinance did state, as it relates in the zoning map, did state this property as what the council member said earlier was a mixed use transportation oriented zone, or MXT zone. That zone did permit this type of use as well. However, the applicant chose to go under the new zoning ordinance, which indicated and designated this property as TAC Edge, or Town Activity Center Edge Zone. As a part of that, they went through the process, which as a part of that process, there's more public engagement that's required as a part of it. So neighborhood planning, neighborhood community meetings that have to take place, the actual notifications that have to go out there, because when it comes to the new zoning ordinance, that was one of the concerns from the community, not the development community, but the community itself of Prince George's County, all the residents. They wanted to get more information about these different development projects that are happening in their community. So as a part of the engagement process, there was a requirement for the applicant to meet with the community. So that was as a part of this process. So that did take place. And I have to go back, and if you want more information on that, I'll have to go back and pull that information. I'll be happy to get that to you all. However, as a part of that process, they did get that review, the discussion with the community at that point in time. I don't know how many people were there, but that did take place. It did get, the application was accepted by the planning staff for review. At that point in time, this was actually the absolute first detailed site plan application under the new zoning ordinance. As it relates to that, we went through and had to look at all the required findings when it relates to these types of uses in this zone. And what that did was, we were looking at development standards that were out there, neighborhood compatibility standards, all these other standards that are out there that are in the zoning ordinance that we had to review for, even including the noise aspect. That was we were taking a look at that as well. In addition to that, they did submit a new noise study, a phase 2 noise study as it relates to this application, and provided that as well. And that's where the noise wall came in as a requirement as a part of this. Anyway, so that was back in 2022 when this did take place. And since then, like I said earlier and gave you the history, it has gone to the council and has been appealed with the courts as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so now that we have James here, and my computer is a bit frozen. Can we bring Brianna up? Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring up one of the community members that had concerns about this, and they did bring this to litigation. Let me just explain what happened from the county level so you all understand what we did, which made it different, is that we denied this application at the time because it was some technical issues with the application. We did not go into all of the at the time when we denied it, because it was a technical denial, we did not go into the quality of life issues that were discussed there because it was a denied. It was appealed, and now it is sitting before the court. In addition to the appeal of our denial, the citizens did a separate appeal of denial too. So it is not just the county that is in, but the community also did their appeal of it. Now, the reason why I'm saying this, as you know, James did know that there are some quality life issues that we could address. And I agree that as a county, we will address them. The issue that I have now is that we have not been able to address it because it is denied at this time until this case is resolved. If it comes back to us, then we will go into some of the details that he's outlined here. However, I am looking at litigation because we do have warehouse districts throughout our neighborhood because this was, Prince George's County had a lot of warehouse sections, a lot of industrial areas throughout that and Westphalia was a big industrial area. It was actually a farming and industrial area before we came in and brought houses. Because of that, I've spoke with Brianna and Corinne and some of the other advocates that have brought concerns. We are putting legislation in that will limit the hours of operation. That is when an industrial even light industrial is this close to residential, there should be a limit in hours of operation so we don't have trucks coming in and out in the middle of the night. And also some noise issues. So we are putting forward that legislation, and we will, anybody who signed up for this meeting will get that notification of that. There were some other comments before I turn it over to Brianna that we did want to know. That Smith Home Farms, we have heard that there are some financial issues, and they are looking at a new buyer. They are responsible for a lot of the roads that have not been built out. They do own Parkside, so we are waiting to hear on that. We have not heard that, but understand there are some developers that cannot build until Smith Home Farms builds out some of the roads. There has been discussion about us holding people accountable. And I want James to say this. At this point, there's nothing, if a developer puts in a detailed site plan, gets it approved, but does not build, is there any fines or anything that is added to somebody who does not build out their detailed site plan?
No, not at all. This is strictly if they choose, it's just like their validity period. If it expires, then it's gone. They have to go back through the process if they want that development.
Right. So right now, if somebody does not has a detailed site plan, they don't go forward with it, they don't build out, or if a developer buys land and simply does nothing with it, at this point, there's nothing in place that will place fines or anything like that. We would have to look into that. We do find with Westphalia, this is imminent. So what we're trying to do before we take any action punitive, because we don't have that in place, we need laws passed, and we need a county executive that will agree. We are trying to meet with each developer to see what we can do to get them to move forward with building. I did send a retail survey out. So while we're listening to the things, we do encourage you all to fill out the retail survey. Marie Claire, if you could post it in there. I did meet with the developer. They did say that they have talked with many of you, and there was some interest in Giant stores. And I told them that from what I've heard from you all is different. However, I think that I've been hearing from different people, but we decided to do a survey to get what type of stores people want. We are going to, this year, I am going on a road show. I'm going to work with some developers to reach out to the brokers and the representatives from these from the various grocers to ask them to come to our area. But I do need something in hand to show me how to show me basically what people want. The average income is pretty high. James, do you have the outline of the income that you all gave, or some of that? And maybe I'll pull that up. Do you
Yeah,
have
I can pull that up if you want to keep going. I can find that for you because I remember
Yeah.
sending it.
Okay. And I do want to give a shout out. We do know that our state's attorney, Aisha Braveboy, has joined us. She was interested in learning more about this, and thank you for joining us.
Why would you like me to start?
Yeah, well, hold on. I just want, in fact, he can talk about it afterwards. We do ask people to fill out the survey, fill out the retail survey. I need to show what you guys want. If you guys want Giant, that's fine, but I need to know that. And we want to hear from you all, so we have something in hand. Devin, my phone is froze, so I'm gonna have to come in and come out, but I'm turning it over to Brianna to talk.
Yep, we got it. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being in attendance. I just wanted to go over a few details about the litigation and how that is continuing on. For folks who are interested, I put the information in the chat about how to watch the court appeals, and I've also put 2 briefs. I shared them a couple times, but I'll share them again in case you did not get them. That talked about some potential conflicts in land use. And I won't get into that here because I know that this office can't make comment on it. But I feel like I think just the first 10 pages of each document shares a good summary of information about what the argument would be against allowing the use to be there for a warehouse so close to a residential area. And so I'm sharing these briefs again, the 2 most recent briefs. I have a list of neighbors that I email just based on surveys. I know you're tired of surveys. I am looking at the chat, but just based on what people have filled out and what people have shared. But if you want to be on that email list, then you can drop your email into the chat and I'll get it. I also want to thank Wallace office and Devin specifically for being so responsive and supportive and putting out quality of life considerations for areas near residential development. I think if this chat is being saved, it would be helpful to have your comments in the chat. But to go over a few things, noise, specifically requiring reports of noise expectations and with considerations for low and peak traffic patterns near the development. It should be submitted surveys alongside the site plan for parks and planning, and that has not always been sent for it. And so decibel requirements and what that looks like based on the distance from the homes. Also for air pollution, using emissions vehicles that are hybrid or electric would be more effective, as well as reporting like expected particulate matter and pollution based on air quality and traffic trips expected. Related to that would be waste management, so trash consumption and recycling reported, and environmental protections, more specifically ethical disposal of toxic chemicals, not having tree conservation messed with, especially not for overplanting male trees and for keeping dense forested areas, and then requiring monitoring of air quality, water quality, and land contamination near residences within 1,000 feet. I tried to copy all of this in the chat, but it was too long. And also within that, annual or biannual land contamination testing, water contamination testing, air quality testing. The next was roadway access. Some of you have brought this into the chat. So protections from commercial vehicles ingressing and egressing with residents in front of residential homes. So entrances and exits, access should be limited to the public for right-of-way roads. And then hours of operation, proposing that hours of operation be limited, I guess 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is like a frame of time that was suggested, but within 1,000 feet of home, just thinking about how that could be more limited. And those are among the things that were shared with the office, but I think maybe reaching out to Wallace office directly with your thoughts about that legislation. That's just an outline for what's possible. And then if you put your feedback in the Q&A, then that'll be considered as well. I'm just trying to put Wallace information in the
Well,
chat.
my staff will put, can you all put our information in chat? They will do that. They're here for that.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and so, So thank you for putting that out there. And I mean, I would just say this, we are aware that people are not probably just found out that 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 a industrial zone is permitted when we said no to Amazon. I get that, and I get that, and I understand people's concern there, but this is the reality is that this is what was this was the permitted zoning. And at this point, we are, and understand this is not just Westphalia. Any town activity center throughout the county has light industrial. So now that doesn't mean that they can't do other things, but it is permitted. So we are waiting for that. So is that all you wanted to say, Brianna?
Yeah, I think that's it. I'm going through the chat and collecting the email addresses for those of you who are sharing them, and I really appreciate you sharing. Thank you.
Councilwoman, can we go through the Q&A? I think many of these questions we have answered.
Yeah, I've been going through.
We could just call them
I've been
out
going
aloud.
right. So
Okay.
I wanted turn it back over to James. James, can you go over the breakdown of what is in Westphalia sector? Westphalia sector plan, I did see some questions, doesn't just include Parkside and Westphalia. It's older Westphalia off Westphalia Road. It also includes Marlboro Ridge, Marlboro Point, Marlboro Riding. All of those are included in the sector plan as part of that. And what we're using, that is going to be used to try to bring retail to this community. And so can you go over that, the thing that you sent me?
Sure. So just to give a little background, the question that came up earlier was regarding the median, or I should say mean or average household income within that Westphalia sector plan. And the information that came up is the mean or average household income is $172,055. That's approximately $50,000 more than the average for Prince George's County. So just to give you a little as far as the background there. There's a lot more information relative to the demographics in this information here, but typically you're finding, like I said, the average income is $172,055. That's for the entire household, not just one person, just to clarify here. In addition to that, we're finding a lot more information regarding educational attainment. So when it comes to that bachelor's degree or higher, we're looking at 52% of the residents within that Westphalia sector plan have a bachelor's degree or higher. And furthermore, not going into the rent aspect because most of the folks there are owning their homes. And then home values, we're looking at median right around $478,200.
Okay.
Okay. And then the area that that we were discussing regarding the Westphalia sector plan, it is a huge area. That's one of the reasons why we call it a sector plan. It's encompassing from Pennsylvania Avenue and Westphalia Road at that intersection all the way back towards Woodyard Road and all the way up north towards Westphalia Road as it goes north, which goes over towards, I think, Marlboro Pike. I think is where it was. Marlboro Pike goes, like the council member said, with Marlboro Ridge and Landing, all those areas over there. It encompasses all those different subdivisions over there. It is huge. It is a huge area that is under consideration as it relates to this. So all that connectivity, everything relevant to, like the council member said, regarding the retail coming in, all those different demographics are into consideration by developers or different businesses as they come into that particular area. So they're looking at this entire area to see how many rooftops they have coming in this area, and also looking at the connections, the income levels. They're looking at educational attainment, all these different things, home ownership, all these different things are a factor for them. So these demographics are definitely a part of that.
Okay. So So the next, so I did want to go over some next steps. So there are some questions, and Devin, I will ask you to highlight some of the questions that have not been answered. I did try to answer most of them. I will say that the metro station issue, this was something that was discussed during Sam Dean's time when he was a council member. So that's 2 council members ago. There was he did confirm that there were discussion that there was going to be a conference center that was going to be built to support Andrews Air Force Base, and there was going to be discussions of a metro. But all of those proposals went away, especially during the recession. So there is no discussion right now of a metro station there at this time. So that is not something we have. And to be honest, Metro is in trouble with funding. So that's another issue we have. So to build a new Metro station is something we would like the extension of the Green Line to this area. We will put that in the discussions. I'm willing to actually start discussing that. But that is going to be the long game, meaning that's not something that we are going to have overnight. Second, we did, what are the next steps? I did hear that. The next steps is really, we are going to go back to Walton. We are pushing Walton to move forward with putting the retail forward. They are trying to stop this litigation. At this point, this litigation is in the hands of the residents that live there. We did deny it before, but the appeal, although we appealed our own decision, the initial appeal was done by the residents that live there. The actual case will be over very soon. They have a hearing in February, I believe, February 5th. And then soon the courts will make their decision there, and it will be determined whether it will go back to us or whether it was denied. So we are, that's something that the council has really not much of a say on. This is something that the residents had concerns with, and it is a technical issue that it is that it is moved forward. So we are asking Westphalia Town Center to Walton to move forward with the retail. We do understand. I did meet with them. They did say that they're going to have an open house to discuss some of the things they have. We have put pressure on them. We did hear that there was also supposed to be a clubhouse. We do not have any information on that. That will be within Walton. But we are putting pressure on them. We just wanted people to know what is Northpoint. I do know that was a big discussion about what is Northpoint. People did not understand what it was. We do want you all to understand what it is. So Devin, I will turn it over to you to highlight some questions or things that we probably did not respond to.
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and posting your comments. Some of the ones we have responded to in the chat, we've answered 118. We have 91 open. I'm going through. Some of the ones are repeat, so we are going to try to answer as much as possible. There's a question about the interest of the Westphalia Town Center, having one interest in homes being built. All that is determined when the initial application going in. There are traffic studies done for each project, and then they're told how many interests they need per the development size for that. So I think we've seen that one a couple of times in there. James, there is a question we've gotten a couple of times. I know we had this answer officially. Can you please share the distance between the homes and the warehouse buildings? What is the buffer zone there?
So the distance actually, it kind of jogs a little bit, but the minimum is about 40 feet from the property line. I want to clarify, not the home itself, but the property line is 40 feet. And then in some areas, that's at the minimum. In some areas, it's actually more than that. And that's to the parking lot, not the building, but the parking lot that we were talking about earlier. So it is a minimum of 40 feet from that property line to the actual parking lot area. That's the minimum there. And it goes, like I said, it can be more than that in some areas, because as you can see, the building was kind of slanted. In some areas it was a little bit more as you got towards the east there.
Okay, thank you.
So Devin, there was one question that says, during the presentation, you mentioned traffic for the industrial sector comes through Machinist and Presidential Parkway. It said, what will prevent or dissuade these trucks from using Route 4 or Presidential Parkway or Central Park to Presidential Parkway? So can you explain that the detailed site plan does well, can you explain what, you know, because you're saying the trucks have to go a certain way. What they're saying is, how can you enforce them going another way or using another way?
So they can have a condition on their detailed site plan that does say the trucks can only go in and out of the site at a certain location. That is something that would be left up to the council to do at this point in time. That would be an option there as well. Enforcement of that would be something probably within, because the enforcement arm for Prince George's County when it comes to planning and zoning and development is under the Department of Permitting, Inspections, and Enforcement. So that's on that side. So that's kind of how that would kind of get enforced there. So there, like I said, a condition could go in to state that, and if that's not being adhered to, then they go down a separate road, which colleagues over at DPI would handle.
Yep. And then there's also DPWT can also put restrictions on road usage by the weights of vehicles coming down. All right, we have another one. Can you please talk about the possible increase to air pollution? I think we are going to address that through future legislation coming from the council member and their colleagues to deal with the vehicle use types as well there.
And let me just jump in here. So there's a question about sharing information. So James, what we can do, because some people want to get access to the approved Northpoint plan. Understand, it is approved by the county, by the by the planning board, but it is not approved by the council. So we denied it. So although it's approved by the planning board, it's denied by the council, and that's why it's being appealed in court. And it's a technical issue that they did not follow. And from our perspective, they need to follow this process. And, you know, there's ways to resolve this that they know that they can do. However, we do want to hear from you all about what your thoughts are about Northpoint. Some people said, why is this emergency meeting? Well, first of all, we did want you, we did meet with the developers about the retail, and we do recognize that we need to start getting data of what we want, of what people want to see before they sign any lease agreement with Giant or any of those. We do want to make sure that we everybody is our folks are heard. Second, we did feel that Northpoint at this point, the litigation has gotten to the point that residents should be aware of it because it is pending. We do want to hear from your thoughts of whether you're okay with it, and we're just getting feedback from you all. So we do want to hear from you all. If you all, Sonia or Marie Claire, if you could put in the chat the contact information. Is this something that residents should be fighting? Are you in agreement with it? Do you think that there are, you know, that this is something that should move on? And we, you know, so we do want to hear from people. I think that this is good to get feedback from folks. And it will be good for you all to know what is out there right now. If it comes back to the council, then that's something we have to start looking at. And there will be a hearing on that issue too. So we can, any other questions that you think, we are going to send out the results of the survey. We've already gotten 500 submissions, I believe. So we will give the results of the survey. We also will send out the we'll try to see a way to send out the presentation for today. And then if you want to get access to the thing, the problem is that a plan that was approved is a 300 page. Is it 300 pages?
Yeah,
It's 300 pages. So if you really want it, send it to us and we'll try to see how we can send it over to you so you could take a look at it, because this is something that that we definitely want to for people to be fully informed. For me, is all about transparency. Smith Home, since Smith Home Farms is having financial trouble, what can they do to get straight answers? We're trying to get straight answers too. We think we will have some straight answers very soon, whoever purchases it, because there are obligations that need to be fulfilled. And do we have an update, James? Can you give a quick update on the park? The Smith Home Farms did finish their obligation of Section 1. Now, what we're now looking at, and I think Corinne is on here too, or somebody who are our representatives. Now the park and planning is starting to move forward with their section of the Westphalia Park. So can you give a quick update on that?
Yes, that's absolutely correct, council member. Our Parks Department is working on what are the next steps in the phase of the development when it comes to the Westphalia Central Park. And so we're going to start having a meeting as of next week. I think it's on Tuesday. We're going to meet and start having those discussions on what that looks like, what the next steps are to store it, so we can go ahead and get things moving as it relates to that. There were some technical aspects of it we needed to take a look at to make sure we kind of unknot this and get everything moving forward, because that's definitely not what we want. So that was identified, and so we're going to work internally to ensure those issues are resolved and to get this park up and moving for the residents there. So that's definitely one of the highest points of conversation that we're having internally. So that is going to start. That conversation will take place next week, and we'll start having a little bit of movement when it comes to the Westphalia Central Park there. So great news. We're going to keep everything moving there for you.
Okay. And so there was something, anything else?
I think
So,
that
so I would say there's another issue. So about Westphalia Road, we do believe that Westphalia Road, especially Westphalia Road and DRC Road, there's something that needs to be done there. I've met with DPWT. I just need a new county executive. And once we get a new county executive in place, we will ask that they be some upgrades to the road. Right now, because the number of homes are not completed, if you did, they said that right now it doesn't seem, there's all these roads that have to be built by the developers that have not been built yet. So it is impacting the push to get DPWT to upgrade the roads. I do believe we were able to get them to look at Westphalia and DRC and Westphalia Road in general, 2 locations of Westphalia Road. I think they agreed to do a study on it. So we are waiting for the results of this study to see if there's anything that can be resolved with that. So we are trying to get some type of road infrastructure while we're waiting for all the other roads to be built. There was an interchange that's supposed to be built by Walton and some others that there's concerns about building that. So we have to relook at that if they want to get out of that, but we do need to make sure we're working with a good partner. And that is part of it is, and so, yeah, so some of these things will be resolved once we get a new county executive. We can actually push for some, for us to sit down and come up with some agreements so we could get things moving. The county, is it possible for the county to take over the road? Yes, but there has to be an agreement because the payment has to be by the developers. So we are looking at that option. That option would at least move it forward to get the roads built and in the county, and then we just build the developer to do it so we could get some other roads built, because there are some even developers on here that are landlocked. I had to go and drive with a tractor trailer to a part of the area where the developer is ready to build, but the road that's supposed to be built to get access hasn't been built yet. And if you don't have a road, you can't really do much to build out because people need to be able to leave to go to work or shopping or other things. So somebody said the sector change in the sector plan. We could talk more about that. That is a long-term process that's going to take a while, because the sector plan is an approved plan that it takes years of sitting down and meeting with all different stakeholders. To make that change would not be something that we could do overnight. And so we have what we have right now with Westphalia. If you all really are strongly adamant that things need to be changed, I would like to hear from you and we'll look at that. There is so much to do with Westphalia and we're trying to get it done. And so someone did suggest that we meet every 3 months to come up with updates. We will be considered to do that. I mean, we do have more development. As you can see, there are homes that do not have the limitation of roads that are being built right now. So the good thing is that there was almost like, I know when I first came in, there was like a lot of things not going on, and then they started to do something. Okay, actually, Corinne, you wanted to say something? Did you want to go ahead and talk because you are a panelist?
Yes, I
Okay,
did want to say something. I just wanted to say that over the course of the last 2 years, we've tried some version of a quarterly, monthly check-in type situation with the community, and we only get 10 to 15 people um logging onto the calls or showing up. And the intention behind the meeting was for it to kind of serve as a vehicle to share information with you all as it happens. But setting up meetings like that takes a lot of work. I am a normal, regular citizen, just like everybody else, with a part-time job and a family. And so folks like myself or Monique Willard, who have been volunteering to kind of serve as community liaisons, is a lot. And so if no one attends these meetings, it's hard to justify continuing to put effort and time into planning them if people don't show up. So if folks are interested in in something like that, I just wanted to share that it is important for folks to actually like actually attend, because the attendance has not been there for the Westphalia Advisory Neighborhood Committee meetings. So just wanted to share that because I've seen a couple of those comments in the chat as well too.
okay, and I mean, what we might have to do is we might have to make it a town hall like meeting because of all the issues that are because things are happening just not as fast as we would want it. Um, so there is so now there was somebody that says a non-homeowner is a name panelist. That's not true. Actually, all of the residents who appealed the case, they all live in Westphalia. So I'm not sure how that why there's there seems to be confusion. Why I don't know why that keeps coming up. Devin, any other questions that you feel that we need to answer? Because it is 8:30, and I know we said we will extend the time due to the fact that we were on 30, we came on about 30 minutes late because of the issue. How can you all sign up for the neighborhood community meetings? Email my office. Can you all put my information there so we can add you to the list? But the truth is, with all the issues that we have here, we might have more town hall meetings until things, so to keep people abreast of what's going on. The litigation for Northpoint will be on February 5th, unless there is a settlement. If Northpoint is willing to do anything to settle with the residents, we encourage them to work on their settlement with the residents because that would be important. But we do, again, I do want to hear from you all on what your thoughts are about Northpoint, whether you are okay. I mean, it is light industrial. It is not like you're going to have the big industrial parts, but I do understand the concern because when I drive through Westphalia, I do believe we do need to get away from the warehousey feel that you feel on some of the side roads. And I know that, and I understand, I do know that somebody noted that, they got promised things that was not fulfilled, and I get that. And I do get that. I do ask again that you all actually sign up, but do the retail survey. We're going to mail it out too. So we're going to make sure that everybody mail it out to everyone to make sure we get as much as possible, because when we go meet with the retailers, we do want to show them that we have that. But I would say that, I don't know what Walton's plans is, but Walton did state that they are talking to some of the grocers now. The issue is whatever grocer comes determines the rest of the retail. Get it? That's the difference with Wegmans. Wegmans defined the caliber of retail that they were able to get for the rest of the pads there. So if we're looking at 6 pads there, I mean, if you want Market Fresh comes with something. Trader Joe's comes with something. Harris Teeter's comes with something. Giant comes with something. Aldi comes with something. Everything comes with something. And that, at this point, what they're putting together isn't going to be a big office park as thought before. It's going to be a grocery store base retail space. So what goes in that grocery store will determine what the rest will look like. That will be the anchor.
James, is it possible to drop the map of the area in the chat? Again, do you have a link for that? We just had a couple questions about the map in the area.
The one in the presentation or the
Yes,
Westphalia
sir.
sector plan? Okay, yeah,
Both.
sure. I'll see
Just
what I
drop
can
both.
do.
You have to drop both. That way we can answer some of these questions.
Okay.
We got it down to 69 now, so.
And I'm just thanking you guys for being an engaged community. I really came in here thinking that I could turn things around in 2 minutes. And what I've learned is like moving a train around you. You got to move it. It doesn't move as fast as you want. And I've only been in this job for 2 years. We're trying to push things forward. But I actually hope that the developers in here seeing Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, because you got to blame it. If you all get Giant, some of your residents said they want Giant. So, so that's, so we definitely want to make sure that they know what you really want. So, but we want to hear from everyone. If you want Giant, that's okay. Or Safeway, that's totally fine. I just need to know. So, okay, and then Devin, are we able, we actually recorded this, so
Yep.
we will,
We'll share this on our website too, as well as the presentation that Mr. Hunt presented. So individuals wishing to share the link, go in from there. Marie Claire has also dropped inside the chat our contact information as well, how to reach out to our office to there. We'll save the question and answers. If there's something that we need to follow up on, we didn't actually answer, we will reach out and try to answer the questions that we see directly. But most of these we have talked about directly. I will state that the council office is not aware of the intimate finances of Walton or any developer. We have the same public information that you all have. So we do have a couple questions related to that. So
and let me address that. Let me just say this. Whether if Walton needs the money from Northpoint, Walton's argument is that they have money that's coming in other places, but they say that they can't take that money to put it into this project. The project has to pay for itself. Now, I think that the discussion about whether Walton needs this money is a matter of opinion. Walton received a TIF. You all are paying a front foot fee. Walton also sold many homes. They are able to use that money. That's the way that that's what I've said to them. I would ask them, where's that money and why are you using that to build the infrastructure for the retail? I understand there's a lot of obligation. We are willing, what I can do with my office is that there is a requirement in 2010 that they put forth that does require a lot of payment, a lot of infrastructure from Walton. But that was in mind that this was going to be a center that was going to have metro and offices and all of those things. We do realize that it is not quite what it was envisioned in 2007. We're willing to work on that, but we have no control over the litigation. The litigation will be over very soon. Once they have the hearing on February 5th, the court will make their decision and it will be done in a matter of months. And they are going, then it will be over. So now there is, and I understand, like I said, I think that Walton was very strategic in picking residents in the community that can speak on their behalf. There seems to be those that have been adamant that they don't have the money. Like I said, we met with them and I told them at this point, the litigation is almost over. So we do that, but we do want to hear from people on the thoughts of Northpoint because it's good for people to actually tell us what they think about that going there. And then the front foot fees are paying for the infrastructure that the developer was responsible for, which offsets their cost. So.
all right. Also, just a few other things. I see a couple questions about EV charging.
Oh, the EV charging bill, yes.
Yes.
So what we did was that we passed a bill because we passed a bill that basically requires that a certain percentage of any new development, which Northpoint and even Westphalia Town Center will also it will be required by them, that if it's an office space or residential, they have to have at least 10% infrastructure for EV charging. So that will help with, some people talk about the pollution issue. Now, you should ask why it's not more, because when we tried to put more requirements, we got a lot of pushback from some of the developers and the business community that this was a lot. But when we looked at our other jurisdictions like Montgomery County, Howard County, we found that there was very low requirements. The actual only place that had the requirements for EV charging was DC at 20%. So we had to start somewhere. We did start somewhere. So any new development will require some sort of EV infrastructure. And we do believe that will help with the pollution issue that people are bringing forth. We do know that there are some higher levels. We do, fortunately, we have to look at what's going to happen at the federal level, because the federal level will help us with a lot, especially with trucks, which do bring a lot of pollution. If they can be electric vehicles of some sort, that will help us. So yeah, so this is so, just making sure that people know about that. And I did have that in my notes. But we do want to hear from everyone, and this is why we're having this. And we're going to continue. We do need to have these meetings more. And I do think somebody said that there should be a meeting every 3 or 4 months. And I agree. So we're going to try to make some more, make this more quarterly.
Okay.
And Councilmember, if I could real
We
quick.
will, and let me, just one more thing. We will have a meeting with Walton. Walton,
and
I did
also
require them
understand-
to have an open house to
Yeah.
meet with people. And so we are going to be coordinating that most likely next month.
Yes, so they are going to do an open house with the residents to come in directly. So we do have 4 questions related to that. So that is the answer. Walton will be hosting an open house for the residents. And we see
Right,
what-
so somebody said with the what retail options come with Whole Foods. We do want a Whole Foods. I do know with Whole Foods there's certain square footage that is needed. So we do want to, if we get those, we would want to get that before they put the application in, because we do want them to have a certain square footage. But again, we are doing a road tour, and I said this year is the year of meeting directly with the retailers myself, because I want to hear them tell me that they can't come to Prince George's County and why they can't. We also are supporting a beer and wine resolution that we're going to be putting forward. Many of these upscale places said they need to sell beer and wine to get to come to Prince George's County, and we do need residents that will help support this effort.
Okay.
Okay, and then somebody said, what help do you need from us to get a law passed to hold developers accountable? We will we are exploring legislation from other areas to see what we can do to get this going. Sometimes instead of penalties, they do incentives, but with the incentives, I mean, they did that with Largo. They did a pilot with Largo. Where we did it, where they had to meet a certain requirement. Like if they did this by this date, that's the only way that they got the tax incentive. Without that, they don't meet that. But those are things that we can put in place with a new county executive.
All right. There's a few questions. How can you join the advisory neighborhood committee? Marie Claire will post our email again. Shoot us an email, and we're happily to sign you up for those residents that have questions about being engaged for the resident component as well. And we will share the announcements for future meetings via our listserv. If you're not a part of our constant contact, we send out newsletters from our office every other week. Social media, we will drop that link inside the chat again. Please join. Please join. That way you can stay up to date. All right. Councilwoman, I think that's pretty much it. Most of these we have addressed, or I'm responding to them one by one. But most of these have been addressed.
Okay, well, thank you all so much. There is, Devin, do we have any information around Armstrong Village?
No, James, are you aware of that project? I had asked for the actual address of that, Armstrong Village.
That sounds very familiar. I don't have the details of it. I can look it up though. I'll be happy to look that up.
Okay,
It's a
so let's,
town development at the front of the Parkside residential development.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a couple questions, people asking us for updates.
We're getting a lot on that, so we need to do that. I need to figure out whether I need not to talk or not. Is it pending? I don't know, because you all know if it's pending before district council, I'm not allowed to speak on it. So we will get, that's something we'll just have to do for the next meeting. Armstrong Village has to be on the list because it's come up a couple of times.
All right, so sounds good. Okay, we got the help needed for laws being passed.
We are, and I will tell you this, at this point, we're looking at incentives for moving forward, or that we are seeing what other jurisdiction does for people who don't, who are not moving forward. I will say it does seem common that a lot of developers are selling people a town that has like, I mean, Fairwood, they sold them a place that was gonna have a school, and then the school did not come until, frankly, we just broke ground for dirt this year. And it
Yes.
was promised to them in 20 years ago. In fact, the advocates that push for their kids are in college.
Yes. All right, also, there are some questions about lighting on roadways. Lighting is determined in the traffic plan when they redo the roads. The developers are responsible for installing the lighting on the new roadways. If it's a current roadway and there needs to be lighting, you can shoot us an email in the office and we can share that with the Department of Transportation through our Traffic Advisory Committee as well.
Okay. And just know for and I think we're ready to get off. Just know for the approval is just saying that if you have a warehouse, here are all the things that you have to do. But what type of business that they actually lease, we don't have that information at this point,
Yeah.
because they would have to do that at that time, and that would be after our approval.
Yeah, and so there's one comment about creating a food hall, which is a great idea, but any tenant can rent the building. So, I mean, we're talking about right now.
No,
Just
but understand, you can't do a food hall in an industrial, for what they put forth in Northpoint, it cannot be a food hall. Isn't that right, James?
Well, they have commercial uses in there. I have to go back and see if the food hall use is permitted, but they may potentially require them to revise the site plan at that point. But that's something we'll have to look into.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay. Okay. So they are allowed to have, because they could have commercial too. So it's my understanding, but they put the plan in for light industrial, right?
Well, it's for warehouse and commercial is what it says. So
Gotcha.
it's like a wide range of uses in there. So it's not just the warehouse.
Okay, so just people understand it doesn't have to be a warehouse. It could be like a commercial office building, but but it does permit, the DSP would permit them to have a warehouse if they lease to someone that is an industrial.
We get in questions. We do not have completion dates. Generally, when a matter is before the council, a full structure is generally not built maybe a year or two from now. To be honest with you. So when you're seeing projects, James, you want to talk about just the timeline from the planning department perspective to actual use of the actual facility?
Yeah, typically, if everything goes well when it comes to inspections with permits, everything, because it's not just park and planning, you're talking about DPI, DPWNT, all these various agencies, in some aspects, even State Highway Administration. So all these other, these agencies are involved in the process. It could take 2 to 3 years, if not longer, in the process, and which is the reason why you were having impacts to the validity period I was talking about earlier. So all these different factors are in place right at this point. Typically, let's say about 3 years if everything goes very smoothly. 2 to 3 years, I'd say that very smoothly, very quickly.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all so much. Anything else before we close? Because we did want to give extra time due to the lateness coming on, and we do apologize to everyone from that about that. We tried to do as many questions as possible to make sure people feel informed until we get some resolutions. And somebody even said, well, you know, can the developer sell? We actually improve. What I found is that if somebody's holding something for so long, we ask them either do something or sell it, because a new person comes in, usually can take it, usually is more incentivized to, you know, they have more excitement to move forward quickly. But Welton said that they're going to move forward once this litigation is done, and we're asking them to do it now. So when the town hall, we're putting together with them, we ask people to come and make it clear to them that we need them to move forward with the retail. No more excuses. We don't want it to be a new excuse in 3 months. After we get that, then we'll get something else. We don't want no more excuses, just build.
Okay. All right.
West Ridge needs to be added to the list, Corinne, if we could add that to the list. And also Armstrong Village. All right, thank you.
Someone asked about, well, never mind, that's not important. Okay, all right, great, got it.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. All right, you all have a good night. Thank you, everyone, for coming on.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you, and thank you so much, James, for being helping us navigate this.
Sure thing, no problem, always here.
Um,
Thanks.
Very complex issue. I think